This episode begins with what seems to be the protagonist of the story. He is standing before a man who appears to be his master, a calm, composed man who carries both wisdom and happiness. In his hand, the master holds a sword unlike any other. Its blade gleams with an unsettling blend of deep black and violet hues. The sword radiates a faint, ominous energy, a power that seems very dangerous. Although Elias, the young man standing before him, has never seen his master use the weapon in battle, he has always sensed that it possessed unimaginable strength. The master tells him that starting today he will no longer look after him. He instructs Elias to find a companion, someone he can trust completely, and someone who will stand by his side even in the darkest time. He reminds him that no hero can walk the path alone, and that true strength is found not in power, but in the bonds forged through hardship. Finally, the master calls him by his name Elias and tells him that from this day forward, he will be a member of the hero's party. He explains that the royal family has already approved this decision, and that even though Elias has no magic power, things will somehow work out. After all, his spirit and potential are what truly matter. With a faint smile, the master wishes him good luck, leaving Elias momentarily speechless and unable to respond. Deep down, Elias understands that his master's real wish was for him to grow and to build genuine friendships. Yet, being suddenly told to join the hero's party and take part in the battle against the Demon King feels far beyond anything he had imagined. Looking back, Elias admits that he never realized how strangely that sword seemed to suit him. Even though he lacked any magical ability, the weapon had chosen him in some mysterious way. It was as if the sword itself was waiting sleeping until the right moment to reveal its true power. The scene then shifts dramatically to an intense battle. Elias and his companions are locked in combat with several dragons high in the mountains. Elias narrates that it has been several months since he joined the hero's party. They had received information about the Demon King's army moving through this region and came to investigate. Among his companions, Thomas, an armored warrior, and Isabella, a sage, are struggling to hold their ground. The air is thick with smoke and the scent of burnt earth. Isabella shouts that there are too many monsters, it feels endless. Wave after wave of wyverns descending from the cliffs that even the strongest adventurers would find it impossible to endure such a siege. Elias looks toward Mateo, the hero and leader of their party. He warns that if they keep fighting like this, they will all be wiped out. Mateo, visibly tense and frustrated, cuts him off sharply, saying that he's well aware of their situation. His eyes reveal exhaustion and pride. The pressure of being the hero weighs heavily on him. Reluctantly, he gives the order to retreat and the group withdraws, leaving behind the battlefield and their hopes for a victory. Later, as Elias quietly packs up their supplies, Mateo approaches him. There's an edge in his tone as he asks Elias if he even realizes what his current position in the group is. Elias responds earnestly, saying that he is his companion, but Mateo says there are two problems. First, he accuses Elias of lying. Elias often told them to follow the floating light, claiming it would guide them safely, but no one besides him has ever seen this mysterious glow. Mateo insists it's nothing more than coincidence. Elias, confused, insists he truly has seen the light, a faint sphere hovering in the air that seems to lead them away from danger. It's not evil, in fact. Every time they've followed it, they've survived. Yet Mateo dismisses it as luck, unwilling to believe something he can't see. Then comes the second accusation, the demonic sword. Mateo explains that such swords can form naturally through dark energies or be forged under very specific, dangerous conditions. They are powerful, but also cursed. Only those with the right aptitude can wield them. Elias, in theory, possesses that aptitude, and yet, no matter how hard he tries, he cannot draw out the weapon's full power. Elias clenches his fists and argues that, even so, he has never caused any harm to the team. He has fought beside them, supported them, and risked his life for them. He insists that he can still be of use, that his loyalty should matter more than his inability to use the sword's magic. But before he can finish, Mateo cuts him off with a cold smile. He tells Elias that he is no longer needed in the party. His words strike harder than any blade, leaving Elias speechless and alone. That night, Elias lies on his bed, staring blankly at the ceiling of the inn. His thoughts drift to his master's words about finding someone he could trust. Ever since his parents passed away, It had been only him and his master, and for the first time, he thought he had finally found a new family within the hero's party. But now he realizes how mistaken he was. With nothing left to lose, Elias begins to wonder if perhaps he should simply become an adventurer on his own. The next morning, he heads to the Adventurers Guild, unsure of what to expect. The guild's hall is busy and filled with chatter, but when he approaches the counter, the receptionist greets him warmly by name. He's startled because he didn't expect anyone to recognize him so easily. She explains that of course she knows who he is. After all, he was once part of the hero's party. Elias sighs and tells her that he's been dismissed, his tone carrying embarrassment. The receptionist nods sympathetically but quickly brightens, remarking that this means he's aiming to become an independent adventurer now. She praises his determination to turn adversity into opportunity, saying that people like him often rise far beyond what others expect. Elias feels a small flicker of warmth in his chest. Even if his team has turned its back on him, there are still people who treat him like he matters, like the receptionist. The receptionist begins registering Elias as an F-rank adventurer right away. Her tone is cheerful and professional, and she tells him that, by chance, a quest just came in that would be perfect for a beginner like him. A new lake has been discovered deep within a large forest, roughly an hour's walk from the Imperial City. The task is simple since it is to explore the area and gather information. Elias decides to do it without hesitation, and he accepts and sets out immediately. As he walks along the dirt road leading out of the city, Elias notices the peacefulness of his surroundings. Sunlight filters gently through the trees, and the air carries the fresh scent of grass and flower. He realizes that during his time in the hero's party, he had always acted for the sake of others. But starting today, he vows to live differently. From now on, he will act for his own sake. For once, he allows himself to simply enjoy the scenery, the rustling leaves, the gentle wind brushing his hair, and the distant hum of wildlife. As he ventures deeper into the woods, he spots a few goblins lurking near the path. Elias immediately recalls the receptionist's warning that low-rank monsters might appear in this region. Hiding behind a tree, he watches them carefully. He doesn't want to fight if he doesn't have to, cause this was supposed to be a simple exploration mission, not a battle. Just as he prepares to slip past them quietly, a faint, familiar glow catches his attention. It's that same light, the mysterious floating radiance he once followed when traveling with the hero's party. He had nearly convinced himself that it was only his imagination. The light drifts ahead, faint yet unwavering, and Elias feels instinctively that it is showing him a safe path. After walking for a while, he arrives at a wide clearing surrounded by towering trees. Elias steps forward and wonders aloud if this is the newly discovered lake mentioned in the quest. Everything seems too peaceful, but before he can investigate further, he hears frantic footsteps echoing through the woods. He turns sharply toward the sound. Someone is running, and not just running, but fleeing. Within moments, an elf girl bursts through the trees, her silver hair flying behind her and her emerald eyes wide with panic. Behind her, a massive beast crashes through the forest, roaring furiously. Elias's blood runs cold as he recognizes it, a water dragon, far more powerful than a wyvern. He can't understand how such a monster could appear in a place this close to the capital. There's no time to think. The elf trips and falls to the ground as the dragon charges, its mouth glowing with magical energy. Acting purely on instinct, Elias dashes forward, drawing his sword in one swift motion. He places himself between the girl and the creature, shouting that he will help her. The dragon attacks immediately. Elias leaps aside, narrowly dodging the blow. He notes that the creature is not very fast, which might give him an advantage. As he descends from his jump, he swings his sword down toward the dragon's head, aiming for its eyes, but the blade barely scratches its scales. Its skin is far too thick. Before he can recover, the dragon's claws swipe toward him, and Elias braces for impact. Just then, a sudden gust of wind slashes through the air, cutting across the dragon's side. The creature howls in anger. Elias glances back and sees the elf girl, now standing on her feet, chanting a spell. She's using wind magic air cutter, slicing at the dragon from a distance. Elias realizes that with her help, he might actually have a chance. He calls out to her, telling her that he will take the vanguard while she supports from behind. She nods firmly with determination. Together they coordinate their attacks. Elias charging forward to distract the dragon, while the elf casts spells to weaken it. The dragon retreats into the depths of the lake, disappearing beneath the surface. Neither of them can see where it went. Elias grips his sword tightly, scanning the lake. The elf girl says that she'll smoke it out and begins to cast another spell. She raises her hands, summoning a strong gust that churns the lake's surface into chaos. Suddenly, the dragon bursts out of the water with a deafening roar. Elias seizes the opportunity and charges, aiming for the creature's neck. But before he can strike, the dragon's mouth opens, and a beam of concentrated energy erupts outward, obliterating the trees behind him. The blast sends shockwaves through the forest. Elias is thrown backward, barely managing to avoid a direct hit. His heart pounds because if that attack had landed, he would be dead. The elf rushes over and asks if he's okay, her voice trembling slightly. She warns him that the dragon's roar energy beam is deadly, capable of wiping them out. Elias nods grimly since they will need to fight smarter this time. He formulates a quick plan. The dragon's scales may be hard, but if he can strike the same spot repeatedly, he might be able to break through. He tells the elf to keep it distracted while he looks for an opening. Elias dashes forward again, dodging the dragon's attacks as he climbs up. He swings his sword again and again at the same point. The blade begins to sink deeper with each strike until, and finally, he pierces through its scales. But before he can pull back, the sword becomes stuck. The dragon thrashes violently, throwing him off balance. With a furious roar, the beast releases another energy beam. Elias barely has time to shield himself as the attack grazes his arm, searing his right hand with unbearable pain. He crashes to the ground, clutching his arm and gasping in pain. The elf calls out to him with panic. In that desperate moment, something strange happened. The world around him seems to fade, replaced by a faint whisper. It's not the elf, it's the light again. Elias looks up confused, asking the elf if she was the one who spoke. He realizes that this voice is asking for help. He honestly does not know if he can get out of this situation alive, but with such a weak voice asking for help, he cannot just ignore it. So he decides to follow this light and help it. When he asks it what should he do, the light tells him to use its power. Suddenly, the demonic sword became enveloped in water, emerging a great power within it. Then, amid the chaos, that same soft voice speaks again. It sounds calm, almost soothing amid the destruction around him. The voice tells him not to think too much, to simply follow his instincts, to trust the power flowing through him. It tells him that if he listens to his heart and let go of his hesitation, he will be able to defeat the water dragon. Elias doesn't fully understand what it means, but he feels something awaken deep inside, a warm, glowing force spreading from his chest to his fingertips. The voice encourages him one last time, telling him that there is no time for calculation or hesitation, only action. Elias grips his sword tightly. He steadies his breathing, sets his eyes on the dragon, and charges forward. He leaps into the air, higher than ever before, and for an instant, the world slows down around him, and with one powerful motion, he swings the sword down. The blade cuts through the air, shining with blinding light, and with a single, decisive slash, it pierces through the dragon's scales, slicing its body cleanly, and Elias lands on his feet. The elf girl runs up to him, her face filled with relief and amazement. She praises him for defeating such monster, calling him incredible. But Elias, still breathing hard, can barely comprehend what just happened. He admits to himself that he doesn't know how he managed to wield the demonic sword, nor how he summoned such strength. Then, before either of them can speak again, the light that had been guiding him all along begins to shimmer more brightly. It floats in front of Elias and changes shape, glowing and twisting until it takes on a new form. A small, delicate creature with the appearance of a tiny siren. She has transparent fins like glass and gentle eyes that sparkle with warmth. The elf gasps softly in awe. Elias stares in astonishment as the creature smiles. She introduces herself as a spirit, explaining that she had been the one guiding him all this time, lending him power so that he could use the sword's true strength. She thanks Elias for saving her and asks for their name. Elias introduces himself, followed by the elf girl, who says her name is Emma. The spirit then reveals her own name, Undine. The moment Elias hears it, a memory flashes through his mind. He remembers reading that name in an old legend. Undine, the high water spirit, one of the most powerful and revered elemental beings in existence. Elias can hardly believe it, asking if she really is that Undyne, but before he can finish, the spirit giggles and nods. Then, to his complete surprise, she asks him if he would like to form a contract with her. Elias is too stunned to answer. He protests that he's just an ordinary human with no magic power, not someone worthy of a high spirit. But Undyne doesn't seem to care. Before he can say anything else, she smiles gently and extends her small hand toward him. She tells him to offer his hand in return. Hesitantly, he does, and the moment their hands meet, a soft blue light envelops them both. A faint mark appears on Elias's right hand, glowing strongly, and that is how the contract has been sealed. Undyne explains that now Elias can call upon her whenever he wishes to use her power, and that they can speak casually whenever they want since they are now equals bound by a sacred bond. Then, with a playful smile, she fades away into shimmering particles, vanishing into the air. Elias remains motionless for a moment. Everything happens so fast that he can barely process it. He mutters to himself that even though he agreed on impulse, he truly has no idea what making a contract with a spirit actually means. He then turns toward Emma, who looks both relieved and flustered. Concerned, he asks if she is injured, but before he can finish, she suddenly grabs his hands. Her cheeks are slightly red, and her eyes look determined yet shy. She takes a deep breath and asks him almost pleadingly to come with her to the elf kingdom. The sudden invitation leaves him speechless. Elias doesn't know how to respond. The request comes out of nowhere, and he can't understand why an elf would invite him to her homeland. Seeing his confusion, Emma explains that she was sent to find a human capable of seeing spirits. She then asks him to describe the color of the small lights gathering around her. Elias looks closer and realizes that faint blue orbs are floating near her shoulders. He says that all he can see are these glowing blue balls, still unaware that they are lesser spirits. Emma's eyes widen slightly. She confirms that he truly can see them, explaining that very few humans in the entire world possess that ability. Among all human tribes, the number of spirit seers can be counted on one hand. Elias feels shocked those orbs he had seen all his life, thinking they were tricks of light, were actually spirits. He shakes his head, saying that even if he can see them, it's useless. His magic power is practically zero. He can't even cast basic spells. The only reason they defeated the water dragon was because of Undyne's help. Emma, however, smiles and tells him that being able to make a contract with a legendary high spirit is already extraordinary in itself. She insists that he must come with her, and after a moment of hesitation, Elias agrees. He doesn't know what lies ahead, and since he has no clear direction for his life, accompanying her seems like the right choice. Before they leave, he tells her that he needs to return to the city to prepare. He buys supplies, checks his equipment, and when he returns, he politely addresses her as Miss Emma. She tells him to drop the formalities since they'll be traveling companions for a while. They both decide to stay at an inn for the night. Just as they are about to go, a familiar voice calls out to Elias. He freezes. Turning around, he sees Mateo, his former comrade from the hero's party, standing there with his usual cocky smile. Mateo's eyes immediately fall on Emma. He whistles and remarks that it's his first time seeing someone from the elf tribe and that the rumors were true. They are indeed beautiful. Emma, polite as ever, thanks him for the compliment. Mateo introduces himself with exaggerated courtesy, then turns to Elias with a smirk. He asks Emma if she plans to travel with him, and when she confirms it, Mateo chuckles and makes an offer. He invites her to join his own party instead. He explains that they've been looking for skilled members lately, and that someone like her would be far better off adventuring with them rather than wasting time with a weakling like Elias. Elias stands silent, feeling a bitter wave of helplessness rise inside him. He hadn't expected to see Mateo again, let alone to be humiliated by him once more and trying to steal Emma out of his party. However, she immediately declines Mateo's offer without even hesitating. She states that she has no interest in joining any other group and that the only person she wants to travel with is Elias. Her words leave both men in silence for a moment. Mateo's expression changes from a smirk to visible annoyance. Clearly offended by her rejection. He thinks she must be joking, that it is simply impossible for someone like her to truly wish to travel with a man he considers a good-for-nothing. He says she will eventually regret wasting her time with a weakling like Elias, but Emma stands her ground, her voice steady as she says that Elias is far stronger than anyone can imagine. With nothing left to say, he clicks his tongue in frustration and decides to leave them, muttering that she will regret her decision soon enough. Elias feels a wave of relief wash over him once Mateo disappears into the distance. He turns to Emma and thanks her sincerely for defending him, yet she shakes her head softly, saying that there is no need to thank her for something so simple, when she notices his pained expression. However, she grows quiet for a moment before asking gently what happened between him and the other. Elias hesitates at first, but then begins to explain. He tells her that Mateo and he met through his master's connection with the royal family. Back then, Mateo was kind and friendly, even considerate. When the other members joined Thomas and Isabella, they were also welcoming, and for a while, things felt right. But as time passed, Elias began to realize that he was the only irregular in the group. Each of them grew stronger with every dungeon, mastering new skills and spells, while he lagged behind, unable to wield the magic sword that was supposed to define him. With each expedition, the gap between them widened. The others climbed in strength and confidence, while he struggled to even keep up. The more the dungeon levels increased, the more he felt like a burden, a dead weight holding everyone back. Their victories became rarer, their failures more frequent, and in the end, Mateo blamed him for it all. Elias's inability to use his sword became the excuse for everything that went wrong. Eventually, Mateo declared that he was no longer fit to be in their party, and so he was cast out. Elias lowers his gaze, his voice faint as he admits that ever since then, he has believed he was the weakest of them all, someone who always drags others down. He says he cannot even call himself a proper magic swordsman when he cannot use magic at all. Emma listens silently, her face gradually filling with anger as he continues. When he finishes, she finally speaks, her tone sharp but filled with emotion. She tells him that everything he just said is completely wrong. To her, he is stronger than he realizes. Elias, however, shakes his head, insisting that the only reason he could defeat the water dragon was because of Undyne's help. Emma refuses to accept that explanation. She insists that the spirit's power may have helped, but the courage and the resolve came from him alone. She reminds him of how, even in the middle of a hopeless battle, he remained calm, analyzed the situation instantly, and acted decisively. Elias tries to dismiss it as nothing special, but she keeps going, saying that true strength is not just about power or magic, but about how one uses it to protect others. She points out that he never abandoned his allies, not even when things got desperate, and that is what truly makes someone strong. She believes that his experiences in the hero's party made him doubt himself, but to her, he is someone who keeps moving forward despite everything, that the essence of strength. Her words make Elias smile faintly, and he thanks her, saying that he is grateful to have met someone like her. After that, they continue their journey together, fighting monsters along the way and growing accustomed to each other's presence. Elias notices that his physical strength and reflexes seem to have improved significantly. Even his control over the demonic sword feels smoother, more natural than before. He whispers a word of thanks to Undyne, assuming it is all her doing. But suddenly, the water spirit materializes beside him with her usual mischievous smile, explaining that while she has supported him, most of the growth comes from his own adaptation. His body, she says, is gradually synchronizing with the sword's power, meaning that he will continue to grow stronger over time. Emma, seeing Elias speaking seemingly to no one, tilts her head curiously and asks if he is talking to Undyne again. The spirit giggles and explains that only Elias can see her since they are bound by a spiritual contract. However, she can allow Emma to see her temporarily. With a flicker of blue light, Undyne's form becomes visible to Emma, who is amazed. Undyne then explains something that surprises them both. She believes that Elias's sword might not be an ordinary weapon, but a vessel capable of channeling spiritual energy. Perhaps, she says, that is why Elias can see spirits in the first place. The sword, for some reason, shares the same wavelength as his soul, which is extremely rare. She concludes by saying that there might be no one else in the world more compatible with that sword than Elias himself. Their journey continues until, at last, Emma spots something on the horizon. She tells Elias that their destination is near. What lies ahead appears to be nothing more than a ruin surrounded by tall stone pillars. Elias blinks in confusion, wondering if this could truly be the entrance to the Elf Kingdom. Emma explains that the ruins are actually a teleportation point, and that they must step into the center of the pillars to activate the spell. When they do, a wave of magical energy envelops them, and in an instant, they are transported to another world entirely. The scenery that unfolds before Elias is breathtaking, a place with towering trees, crystal-clear rivers, and buildings that seem to merge with nature itself. As they walk deeper into the city, the elves around them smile and wave at Emma, clearly recognizing her. Elias notices their respectful tone and starts to feel uneasy. When they finally reach her home, his mouth falls open in shock. Before them stands a grand royal castle. A graceful elf woman appears, her presence warm and dignified. She welcomes Emma home with open arms. Then, a tall man with sharp eyes and a regal aura steps forward, the king himself. When Emma's father, King Mikhail, greets Elias politely, realization strikes him like lightning. The truth dawns on him at once. Emma was not just an adventurer or an ordinary elf girl. She was a princess all along. Elias is completely taken aback by the realization that Emma is a princess. His posture stiffens, and instinctively, he starts using formal honorifics to refer to her, speaking with utmost politeness and respect. However, Emma's face instantly turns red. She waves her hands, almost panicking, and tells him to stop calling her like that, and she insists that she doesn't want him to treat her differently just because of her title. For a moment, Elias hesitates, unsure of what to do, but then he quietly nods. Deep down, he realizes that she might be right. Regardless of her noble status, Emma is still his friend and companion, the same girl who fought beside him and encouraged him when he doubted himself. To suddenly change the way he acts toward her would only make things awkward between them. Their exchange doesn't go unnoticed. Emma's mother, the queen, who had been observing the interaction with a knowing smile, tilts her head slightly and comments playfully that Elias seems rather comfortable calling her daughter by name without honorifics. Her voice carries a teasing lilt, and her expression is one of mild amusement. Emma, mortified, turns to her mother with her cheeks burning and pleads for her not to say such weird things. Before the teasing can continue, the king, Mikhail, steps forward with a calm yet warm smile. He tells his wife to refrain from making their guest uncomfortable. His tone is gentle but authoritative, showing the dignity of a ruler. However, as soon as he turns his gaze toward Elias, he leans slightly closer and whispers in a low, asking what his true feelings are toward his daughter. His expression betrays an almost childish curiosity, clearly enjoying the situation more than he should. Elias, caught completely off guard, feels his face flush as he is unable to find any words. Emma, flustered beyond measure, interrupts sharply, telling her father to stop and to drop the subject entirely. She tries to change the topic by asking him about the sword that Elias carries. He comments that it seems to be a magic sword, yet unlike any known type, its aura feels synchronized with Elias's presence, suggesting an unusual compatibility. Before they can discuss it further, a soft voice echoes through the room. A new figure enters, an elegant elf woman with long hair. Everyone present straightens immediately. Emma lowers her head in deep respect, bowing gracefully. Elias, sensing the sudden shift in atmosphere, realizes this woman must be someone of extraordinary status. He quickly bows as well, trying not to appear disrespectful. Emma introduces her as Lady Titania, one of the most divine and revered figures in the entire elf nation. Her presence alone radiates power and serenity, yet there's also a serious look in her eyes. As Elias raises his head, he feels a strange sensation, something deep inside him resonating faintly, as if his very soul is responding to her existence. It's not painful, but it's strange and deeply familiar. Titania's calm gaze meets his, and with a gentle smile, she asks him if he has formed a contract with the spirit known as Undine. Elias wonders how she could possibly know that. Before he can ask, she explains softly that the reason is simple, because she and he are of the same kind. He frowns slightly, unsure what she means, and she tells him that such resonance occurs naturally when those connected to spirits meet one another. Almost immediately, A gentle blue light flickers beside Elias. Undine herself appears, shimmering in her water-like form. She says that she doesn't mind being in the presence of such noble being. Titania smiles at the sight of her, remarking that it has been a very long time since they last met. Through their conversation, Elias learns something surprising. Long ago, Titania and Undine once adventured together alongside a human who had also formed a contract with Undine, a man much like Elias. Intrigued, Elias asks what happened to that person, but Titania's expression softens, and she tells him that it has been centuries since that human passed away. Her voice carries a quiet melancholy, and Elias feels a sudden wave of curiosity about just how old Titania truly is. When he dares to ask, she simply smiles and says that it's a secret, with playful tone despite her divine composure. Emma then explains that it was actually Lady Titania who gave her the mission to find a human capable of seeing spirits and bring him to the Elf Kingdom. The revelation stuns Elias for a moment. He had believed Emma stayed with him because of their growing bond, but now it seems that it was only part of her duty. The thought stings quietly, though he tries not to show it. Sensing his unease, Emma turns to face him directly. Her eyes are firm but filled with emotion as she tells him that her decision to travel with him wasn't just about her mission. She admits that while Titania did assign her that task, she had her own reason for wanting to stay by his side. Because she was born into royalty, she never truly had someone she could call a real friend or someone who treated her as an equal. Traveling and adventuring with him gave her that sense of freedom she had always longed for. Being with him made her feel genuinely happy, and that, she says, was far more important to her than any duty or royal order. Elias is silent for a moment, and his expression softening. Then he tells her that he believes in her words and that she doesn't need to thank him for anything. He assures her that to him their friendship is just as real and meaningful. At that moment, Lady Titania steps forward once again. She tells Elias that the reason she summoned him to the Elf Kingdom is not merely curiosity. It is because there is something only he can do. Then, in a calm yet solemn tone, she tells him that his destiny is to save the world, and these words strike Elias, leaving him completely speechless. Titania's expression turns serious. She tells them that right now, the high-ranking spirits of this world have been sealed away by the forces of the demon. Elias looks genuinely. He cannot understand how such a thing could happen. If Undine herself is a spirit, and she has been able to lend him power, then how is it possible that the demons managed to seal beings as powerful as her kind? Undine, hovering beside him, looks down with a sorrowful expression. Her translucent form appears as she begins to explain. When they were fighting the blue dragon near the lake, she says, she was actually still sealed at that point. That water dragon was no ordinary monster. It was the guardian of the seal, a key designed by the demons to bind her spirit. However, because Elias and Emma managed to drive it away from the sealing point, even temporarily, she was able to break free just enough to lend Elias her strength. She admits, though, that her freedom isn't complete. Her power remains partially restrained, and she cannot yet move far from Elias's presence. The atmosphere grows heavier as Titania continues speaking. She explains that the natural enemies of demons are spirits and angels. Throughout history, these two races have always stood at the forefront of the struggle against demonic corruption. But now, with the spirits sealed and the angels withdrawn from mortal affairs, the world stands defenseless. According to ancient prophecy, the demons will begin to move in earnest within a few years, and when that time comes, their first targets will be the sealed high-ranking spirits. By destroying or corrupting them, the demons would ensure that no divine balance remains to oppose their power. Elias listens carefully, and the idea of the world heading toward destruction feels too large, but Titania's calm and measured tone makes it sound inevitable. At that point, she turns her gaze toward him, saying that only someone chosen by the spirits, someone loved by them, can save them. The bond between human and spirit is rare, she says, and only a true spirit user can purify the demonic seals and defeat certain demons that ordinary adventurers could never. He slowly comes to a realization. Rescuing the sealed spirits might indirectly save the entire world, but such a task feels overwhelming. The very phrase, "save the world," echoes in his mind, heavy and impossible. He lowers his head slightly, doubt clouding his expression. He wonders if he could do it since he is a mere failed magic swordsman. Titania seems to sense his hesitation. She tells him that she does not expect him to answer immediately. Instead, she offers a more tangible beginning, a single mission. There is another spirit sealed not far from the elf kingdom. They have tried everything they could to free it, but none of the elves' methods have worked. The seal remains unbroken. Elias looks around at everyone in the room. The elves who stand nearby appear worried, even hopeless. He can see the quiet despair in their eyes, the frustration of them. Something inside him clicks, a familiar spark of determination ignites. He clenches his fists and takes a step forward, declaring that he will do it and he will save that spirit. Later, Elias and Emma set out toward the shrine where the spirit is sealed. The place lies deep within a cavern surrounded by dense forest, its entrance hidden beneath layers of moss and stone. As they walk, Emma warns him to stay cautious. Monsters are known to dwell in these caves. Elias nods, but she can sense something different about him. His shoulders are tense, his steps slightly uneven. When she asks what's wrong, Elias admits that he's nervous. He can't help thinking about what lies ahead. The idea that the fate of the entire world might depend on his success terrifies him. If he fails here, he wonders if everything truly would fall apart. Emma listens patiently. She tells him not to think about saving the world right now. It's too much pressure, even for someone stronger than him. What they are doing at this moment isn't about the world. It's about saving a friend, Undyne's friend. She reminds him that his strength comes from caring about people, not from trying to carry an entire world on his shoulders. If it were her, she says, she would break down from that kind of responsibility. So she suggests that he forget about the world-saving part and simply focus on the task in front of him. Elias stares at her quietly. Then, for the first time since they left the kingdom, he smiles faintly. She's right. He doesn't need to think about destiny or prophecy or the future. He's here for his friends Undyne, Emma, and the spirits who are suffering, and that is enough reason for him to fight. The duo clear minor monsters while inside. When they finally reach the cave's mouth, they are greeted by a strange sight. Even though it's underground, there are trees inside, pale roots twisting along the rocky walls, glowing plants illuminating the darkness with blue and green light. The air feels alive with magic. The further they go, the denser the spiritual energy becomes. They continue walking until they come upon a massive stone doorway. Emma points ahead, saying that the sealed spirit should be somewhere beyond that point. The moment the two of them push the heavy door open, a flood of ethereal light spills out, filling the chamber. Tiny motes of energy micro-spirits float through the air like fireflies. At first, Elias is in awe. In the center of the vast chamber stands a statue, its design graceful and solemn. He realizes that this must be the shrine where the spirit rests. But before he can take another step, the giant door behind them slams shut, and they are now trapped. Elias immediately senses danger. He warns Emma to stay alert. A low rumble shakes the ground beneath their feet, and then, with a loud crack, a massive stone golem emerges from the wall. Without hesitation, it swings a massive arm toward them. The two manage to dodge just in time, the stone hand smashing into the ground with enough force to send dust and pebbles flying. Elias steadies his breathing and shouts for Emma to support him with magic. He calls out to Undyne, asking for her strength once more. In response, his sword begins to shimmer with a faint azure glow. The spirit's power surges through him, and he feels his senses sharpen. He charges at the golem with fast movement. The golem swings again, but it is sluggish compared to his agility. Elias leaps into the air and brings his blade down with a powerful strike, slicing through the creature's torso. The blow lands perfectly, but to his shock, the golem's stone body begins to reassemble almost immediately. The cracks seal themselves, and within seconds, it stands whole again. Emma raises her staff and casts a powerful wind spell. Blades of compressed air slice through the golem, yet the damage heals just as quickly. Elias grits his teeth in frustration. Neither sword nor magic seems effective. Then, with an unexpected roar, the golem's arms morph into a mass of thick vines that lash out in every direction. Elias barely manages to block some of them, but the sheer force sends him skidding backward. He glances toward Emma since her defense isn't nearly as strong as his. If one of those vines hits her directly, it could be fatal. In that instant, Undyne's calm voice resonates in his mind. She tells him to remain calm, to trust in her spiritual power. The sword in his hands begins to shine more brightly, glowing with an intense blue light. He feels a surge of warmth spread through his body, as if the weapon itself is alive. The vibrations of the blade pulse in harmony with his heartbeat. With newfound confidence, Elias grips his sword tightly. He can feel Undyne's energy guiding his movements, amplifying his strength beyond human limit. The vines rush toward him like a tidal wave, but this time he doesn't flinch. He swings his sword in a wide arc, and the glowing blade cuts cleanly through every vine in its path. Then, with a final blow, he finishes off the golem like it's nothing and cutting his head off, realizing that this was the key to keep the monster out of regenerating. But suddenly, Elias starts to feel severely exhausted. His body won't move, and he falls on his knees of exhaustion. Emma is happy because he could defeat the golem. But as she arrives, the golem awakens again and punches Elias, sending him flying in the act. She screams his name since this outcome was completely unexpected. She goes to check on him and asks him if he is okay. Elias was hurt, but even through the pain, his mind was fixed on one thought of the golem's regeneration. It made no sense that a creature could reform itself completely, even after being decapitated. His breathing grew heavy and uneven as blood poured from his mouth, staining the ground below him. The sight alone made Emma's expression twist with worry. She could see that his body was reaching its breaking point. She called out to him, telling him that at this rate he was going to die if he didn't stop. But Elias, in frustration, didn't want to give up. Not here, not when he had come this far. He knew that his body was screaming in pain, and that he had reached his limit. But something deep inside refused to accept defeat, and he called out to Undyne, asking her to lend him more power. Undyne's calm but worried voice echoed inside his mind, warning him that his body might not be able to withstand any more spiritual power. But Elias only shook his head, eyes filled with determination. He shouted that it didn't matter if he didn't fight now. Emma would die, and he would fail to protect Undyne and every other spirit counting on him. With renewed resolve, Elias forced his trembling legs to move and launched himself at the golem once again. His sword gleamed faintly with the remnants of Undyne's power. As he clashed against the creature, he noticed something different this time. When the blade grazed the golem's chest, the regeneration process seemed slower, as if something inside was reacting. His eyes widened with realization, since that was the weak point. He immediately called out to Emma, commanding her to focus her magic on the golem's chest. Without hesitation, Emma gathered her strength and unleashed a powerful wind cutter, slicing straight toward the area he pointed at. Taking advantage of the brief opening her spell created, Elias charged once more, channeling everything he had left into his sword. The spiritual energy began to swirl around him like a raging storm, and he muttered silently in his mind that, for the sake of his comrades, he would push past his limit. The air vibrated with energy as he performed his strongest technique, Spirit Magic Sword, Azure Set Snowflower Slash. The blue light of the blade expanded outward in a brilliant arc, striking the golem square in the chest. A deafening explosion echoed through the cave, shaking the walls and tearing apart the monster's massive frame, and the golem's body cracked and shattered into pieces. Emma's eyes widened in awe and relief, realizing that the glowing crystal embedded in its chest had shattered, the true source of its regeneration. The battle was over, but Elias could barely stand. The exhaustion hit him, and the pain coursing through his body was unbearable. His vision blurred as his consciousness slipped away. Just as his knees gave out, a soft, unfamiliar voice echoed through the chamber. It was serene and ethereal, asking gently if he was the one who had freed her. Emma turned in surprise, looking toward the center of the cave. From the light surrounding the broken statue, a faint figure began to take form, a being made of shimmering leaves and the essence of nature itself. The spirit introduced herself as Dryas, one of the high-ranking spirits who had been sealed away. Her presence radiated warmth and life, and both Elias and Emma stared in silent admiration. Dryas looked at Elias's broken and bloodied body, and her expression softened with compassion. She thanked him deeply for breaking her seal and said that, as gratitude for risking his life, she would heal him, but first, she would need to form a contract. Before Elias could even respond, a greenish light enveloped him. His wounds began to close rapidly, his pain fading as the spirit's energy flowed through him. Within moments, the scars disappeared completely, leaving only fatigue behind, and Elias was astonished. Dryas smiled faintly, explaining that her abilities focused primarily on healing and support magic. She told him that if he ever found himself or his allies in need of assistance, he could call upon her without hesitation. Elias nodded, feeling genuinely grateful for her kindness and strength. Reflecting on what had happened, Elias realized a pattern just like when the water dragon had been the key to Undyne's seal. The golem had been the key to Dryas's. Each battle would likely involve confronting creatures bound to the seals, meaning they would have to remain alert for whatever was to come. As they rested, Elias turned to Undyne. He asked her why the high-ranking spirits had been sealed in the first place. Undyne asked if he had ever heard about the Demon King's revival. Elias says of course he had. The entire purpose of the hero's party, and the very reason Mateo had been chosen as the hero, was to defeat the newly born Demon King. Undyne, however, shook her head gently. She told him that the Demon King hadn't been born recently, but he had been resurrected. 200 years ago, there had already been a Demon King who had plunged the world into chaos. A hero had risen back then as well, and that hero had fought valiantly but ultimately died in battle. After his death, one of the hero's companions, a spirit mage, had used their own life force to seal the Demon King, but the price was unimaginable since the high-ranking spirits were sealed along with him. Elias was speechless since he couldn't believe that even the hero of the past had failed, and that the spirits had been trapped because of that ancient battle. It meant that the threat they faced now was not new, but something ancient and far more dangerous than anyone in the current era could imagine. As they talk about this, a strange voice can be heard in the back saying that this is the reason why the high-ranking spirits are more troublesome than the hero himself, and that they must be eliminated as soon as possible. Everyone turns around, and there are two strange humans demon looking with horns, one of them saying that for the sake of the resurrected Demon King, every spirit needs to be eliminated.